Hello and welcome back to ZIM Explorer. I am Dr. Abstract. In this ZIM Explorer, we're going to take a look at a question that an Adobe Animate user had, and we'll see how we solved it for them. So let's go to ZIM at zimjs.com and we'll take you through it. So ZIM is built on Create.js, and that's what Adobe Animate exports to. So you can use all of ZIM inside of Adobe Animate as well. And there's all sorts of wondrous things that you can do with ZIM. It provides many conveniences, components, and controls. So under the code section, of course, many of us use ZIM just on its own without Animate. But if you want to animate for timeline and stuff like that, you're welcome to use that too. So if you go to the code section and scroll down, this would be how we would normally start in something like VS Code, and then we just start making a circle and creating in ZIM. But there's also this one right here, ZIM Shim for Adobe Animate. And there's all sorts of tutorials. Here they are, including how to begin. So we've got this thing called ZIM Shim, and I'll show you just briefly how to put that in place. But here is the video that introduces that. And then we have 30 or so tutorials there on how to do different things in ZIM. We had a user of Animate ask how to do a matching, or like a matching type game. We already done a matching game, so you can have a look at that. But theirs was a little bit different, so we thought we would show them how to do that. And so what we'll do is we'll do a video on what we did for them, and then we'll put that video here as well, so that's there. And there's some of the instructions on how to get started and tips as to what's going on. So, although it would be best probably for you to start with the intro videos and check out the Zimify of movie clips. So these two, and positioning, and then we get into some of the more specific things that we can do. Okay, so there's a zip file that you would grab, the zip file right there, and that will help you out. But let's go to Adobe Animate now and see what we made. It was basically, we were wanting to grab something. This is a movie clip here on the stage called 1. This is a movie clip called 2. And this is a movie clip called box 1 and a movie clip called box 2 on the stage. And let's try her out. So if we run this, at first they wanted to just know how to snap something. So there we drop it and it snaps it into place. But if it misses it, it goes back to somewhere else. Okay, and there they are snapped in place. Then it was like, oh, but how do we know we got the right ones? And then it was, so we ended up making a second movie clip, or a second, flash file, FLA, excuse me, Adobe Animate file. Anyway, I now Control Enter and I'm trying out the second one. So it basically looks the same where it snaps it in place. We have an emitter. But this one, you can pick it up and drop it back out again. So that was another thing. Or you could even pick it up and move it over there. And they wanted to know whether we won or not. Okay, so that's without we didn't win. And in this case, we did win. There was also the hopes that we could have a reset where that then also gets reset. So those were some extra things that they were wanting. We'll take a look at both of these versions now then, shall we? The first one, let's go back to the first one. In either case, we do a little bit extra here right under the, I guess we have to hit on the stage here. So clicking on the stage, we have more settings. And under HTML settings, we can import a new template, and that's the ZIM Shim template there. That will hook you up. It's only like 10 lines of code or something in behind there that hooks you up so that you get all of the things that ZIM can do, all the conveniences, components, and controls, including things like one-line drag and drop, multiple types of hit tests, and it just goes on and on and on. Okay, so we've done that setup to get this started, and let's take a look at our actions here. These are on the main timeline, it's called. So there's a main timeline. Also, that is a movie clip. So it's a movie clip within a timeline movie clip. We have found that if we don't stop the main timeline, Create.js automatically puts its stuff back on that main timeline. So that's obviously quite annoying. We want to take these things and put them onto a ZIM stage and Zimify them. And the timeline would keep on putting them back onto the Create.js movie clip timeline. So we just stop it. That stops the main timeline from doing that. Then we're going to ZIMify number 1, and that gives us all sorts of methods that we can use, such as the drag that we're talking about. So we ZIMify 1. We're going to add it to the ZIM stage, which is S, capital S there. We're expanding it. If we didn't expand it, when you picked up number 1 or number 2, you couldn't pick it up from here, for instance. You would actually have to press on the black stuff. So expand takes the bounding box and gives it even an extra 20 pixels. Unless you expand 0, then it wouldn't give you that extra, but we don't mind the extra 20 pixels. So what we're talking about here is as we go over the 1, you see how there it is? That is it expanded like that. Number 2 is expanded so that I could pick it up from here if I want. Otherwise, I'd have to pick it up on the black. So that's the ZIM method, expand. And then drag is here. Because the number 1 is a shape inside of a movie clip, because that's what it is, if we just said drag, it would actually drag the shape inside there. And that's a good thing because, not in this case, but it's a good thing in general. Imagine that we had a movie clip with 100 monsters in it. We could just say, in that movie clip were called monsters, we could just say monsters.drag, and then it would drag each individual one, or any individual one we pick up, it would drag that one. So that's quite a convenience. We don't want that in this case, though. We want to drag the actual movie clip 1. So we're saying all true, and that's just like saying, hey, pick up everything and drag it. Okay, so just watch for that. And we do that with number 2 as well. We ZIMify it, we add it to the ZIM stage, we expand it, and we drag it. We have a couple boxes, and down below we're going to loop through our boxes right here. They're boxes.loop, and by putting them in its own container, it just makes it a bit easier to access each of our box. So we're making a container. It's like a container is like a movie clip, but it doesn't have a timeline that runs. It's just basically a holder, or it would be like a div in HTML. So that's the ZIM container. And we're adding it to the stage there. By default, it does add it to the stage. Actually, we probably don't need these ones to be S's either, but that's true, I think. I don't even think we need S's in there. See if it still works. And we pick it up and miss to pick it up. Yeah, so that all still works. I don't know why we had the S's in there. Yeah, by default, ZIM will add it to the stage. And then we are taking each box, ZIMifying our existing box, and adding it to our boxes container. Okay, so now these boxes are no longer on the main Adobe Animate timeline, master movie clip, or whatever. They're inside of the boxes container on our ZIM stage. All right, we record the starting positions of these. So number 1 has a start position. This is raw JavaScript, where we're saying the x is 1.x, whatever its current x is. So that's basically the x and y of where it started. That's so that we can snap it back. Okay, so when we do this, no. When we do that, it snaps back to its starting position, and we'll see how that happens. In the next version, we're going to put the nums inside a container as well, and we're going to loop through the nums and do things like that. That'll be easier then for you if you have more of these boxes. You don't have to do each one individually. But for here, we just did each one individually. And we not only do each the starting positions, but we say when we press up on 1 or press up on 2, then we're going to test. We're going to call the function test. And here's the function test right here. So we find out which one we have pressed up on. So that's the e.currentTarget. So e.currentTarget is whichever object the event was put on. There's the event. So if I pressed up on 1, then e.currentTarget would be 1. So that's my num, my current num there. Then I'm looping through the boxes. So I'm now looping through each box. I'm finding out, did our num that we picked up hit the box? So that's hit test bounds, checks to see if those bounds are hitting, and that's fine for this case. There's many different types of hit tests, though. You might have weird shapes or circular shapes and might not want the bounds because the bounds are square. In this case, the bounds are fine. So hit test bounds. So if our num is hitting the box and the box is not full, then we're going to do this. Okay. So let's see, what are we doing? We're going to locate the num at the box. So num.locate at the box. That's one of those ZIM methods, a nice handy thing that will locate one clip at an X and a Y or at an object that has an X and a Y. And so that's what we've done. We've said that this box is full, so that next time if we try and drop it on it, the box will be full and then this won't work. And we've also said don't pick it up anymore. So no mouse. This is a nice easy way to say we can't pick that up. So when we drop this on a box like that, I can't pick it up anymore in this case. In the next case, I can pick it up still because I might want to move it into another box. And we return false. So this means if we're hitting, so if we placed it, we're going to return false. What that does is it stops our loop. So here's our loop. The return false takes us out of our loop and puts false into miss. So miss was false. Okay, so if we hit something, we'll return false. Otherwise, if we don't hit anything, what happens is this returns true. The loop will say, I finished looping, true. Okay, so if this finishes looping, miss will be true. But if I hit something, then miss will be false. All right, so if miss is false, then we're going to animate our num, whatever we picked up, we're going to animate it to the start X and the start Y in 0.7 seconds with an ease of back out. And that gives us that nice ease. So if I miss, you see that? Whoosh. It kind of goes back to the start place, but a little bit farther and comes back to it. Cool, huh? Wow, ZIM is so easy and so powerful. What properties do we want to animate? How long? The ease. There's a whole bunch of other parameters in there. We could loop, we could rewind, we could call functions when we're finished looping, we can follow functions when we're finished animating, etc., etc. A whole bunch of things. We can animate along paths. Wow. All right, so there you go. That's the very first one. Yay. Now the next one gets a little more complicated because we're doing complicated things. It's not complicated because ZIM is complicated. It's complicated because there's a lot of different options. So let's run it and remind us what we've got there. So there's our normal snapping back to the start X, but if we hit, then it snaps. But now watch this. I can pick this up again, and then I have to snap it back, and this box now will have to be recorded as being empty. I can pick it up from here and drop it onto here where I didn't miss, but that box still needs to be empty. We have to record that this is here or not here. I just dropped it somewhere else. We still can't drop on that. I drop here. We have to find out if this is right or wrong. We have to reset to the different places. Those boxes now have to be empty so I can drop them on there again. So there's a lot of just normal little coding stuff that maybe you're not used to if you're a designer. But rest assured, ZIM makes all of this stuff easy as possible, but there's still the logic that needs to be done. Okay? And here we go. Although actually there is a way to do this stuff now. If you put these in lists, so if you put them in ZIM lists, we automate all that stuff. So you can drag and drop from lists. But anyway, we didn't in this case. So let's go to the second one. And this time we've got our boxes and we add our boxes to the boxes. This time we made a container for the nums. I guess we need that to be able to loop through the container easily. So we made a container for the nums and put 1 and 2 inside that container. We are looping through the nums each time we get given a num and our iteration, our index number, so 0, 1, 2, 3. So the first time is 0, etc. And we use that because we're going to record which one is the good box. So for this num, for number 1, this box 1 is the good box. And that will allow us to compare later to find out if our num is in the right box. We just say, hey, whichever box we're in, is it the good box? Okay, see how that, so we're preparing. All right, so we create our start property for each one. We make our press up for each one, and we say num.good. So this number's good box is equal to the boxes.getChild@I. So that's a create.js command that gets the child at our index number. Basically, we're matching that up. If they don't match up, that would mean that they'd have to be in the same order. But if they don't match up, you might have to do it manually. And it would just look like this. 1.good is box 1, or whichever is your good box or your good shape. Remember, we don't have to use boxes here. We don't have to use numbers. This, oh gosh, that's hard to grab that center thing there. Anyway, these could be pictures. This could be a cat, and that could be a dog, and we're dropping them on whatever, the dog house or the cat basket, whatever it may be. Okay, so we're making an emitter, and we're starting that emitter paused. By the way, we have 2 ways to access ZIM parameters. Did I mention this to you? I don't know if I did. I don't think so. But start paused is a parameter that when we have an emitter, the very first parameter is what are we emitting? Then it's all sorts of things. How long are we emitting for? How long will it live for? What, blah, 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 blah. And there might be dozens. Whether we want it paused at the start is way the heck down there. So we would have to go null, 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 or undefined, 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 undefined to find out eventually when we get to the start pause and set that to true. So ZIM, in ZIM Duo, the second version of ZIM, we invented the ZIM Duo technique where we could do normal parameters if we want, such as these are normal parameters, 1 and 2, or we can jump right to the parameter by putting it in the curly brackets here, the squiggly brackets, and saying the parameter name, :value. Okay? So that's great. We ran with that for 8 years, and we're all happy because we invented it. And then my kid said to me, Dad, Python does that. And I went, what? So Python has a way to do that too. A little bit different format, but similar. Isn't that funny? Anyway, it still makes ZIM very powerful and convenient. So that's our emitter. We're starting it paused so that we're going to later, when we get a right answer, we're going to spurt it. So now we're checking, we're looping through all the boxes. If it hits, we are locating it at the box. If we dragged it from some other box, then we're setting its box, the other box. Okay. So if our current num that we're dragging already had a box, we set whatever that box was, its full property to false. And that means, so in here, let's remember this one. Here I am, that box is now full, but if I pick it up and drop it into this box, we'll set this box to false so that I can put that one in there. If we didn't do that, I couldn't put that one in there. And we're setting whatever box we dropped it on to full. So this is whatever box we just hit. We're setting it to full. And we're also recording which box we put that on. So the nums, our current box, is whatever box we dropped it on. And that will allow us later, actually right here, to test. So we figure out which box we're in. We locate the emitter at that box, and we spurt it 10. We could spurt it 100. Do you want to see that? So here we are spurting it 100 times. Oh, 100 little particles just went. Yeah, we really dropped it on that box, that's for sure. You could also spurt it only if the box was the good box, and so that would look something like if box is double equal to our nums.good. Okay, so if it's the right box, then spurt the emitter. Some of you might be wondering why we did the emitter each time. So now we go like this. That's not the right one. We better reset here. And are you ready? That is the right one. Okay, so we could do that if we wanted to, but that's kind of makes it maybe too easy for them. I don't know. So we didn't. So that we're going to spurt it. Hey, you got a box. There you go. Now we're going to test to see if we win. So we're going to loop through the nums, and each time we get a num, if num.box is not equal to the good box, then we're going to return false. Therefore, false would be put into win. If it gets all the way through, so if it doesn't meet, if the box is not the good box, But if it is the good box, it doesn't do this. And so if all of them are the good box, it won't ever return false, and therefore the loop finishes and win is true. It just takes a little bit of getting used to how a ZIM loops. You don't always use that quite often. Most of the time you're just looping through something and you don't even have to worry about returning anything. You're just looping through stuff and doing it. So the ZIM loop's pretty amazing. You can loop 100 times, call this function, and each time you would get the whatever number it is, iterator number. You can loop through an array, so if you had an array of whatever, A, B, C, that would loop through it, and each time you would get given the item in the array and the index number. Okay, so the loop is very versatile like that, and there's a bunch of other things it can loop through too. But in this case, we can, if we wanted to, say it would just be like this, loop through nums, so nums, comma, each time we get a num. Okay, so that's the loop function, loop through nums, but we want to use the method. So this is now the loop method, nums.loop, each time we get given a num. All right, so if we work that out, so basically we're testing to see if we win or not, because we have to check each one to find out if we're winning. And if they all are good, then win will be true because the loop finished. But if we ended up returning false, then win will be false. Okay, or we could just loop through if all the boxes are full. That's, you know, don't care about a win or loss, just are they all full? Okay, and that would do it there. So if we're winning, we set the frame's color to green. And we could, this is the ZIM frame F. There's also a stage S, but actually I think the stage probably has a color too. But anyway, F dot outer color. Let's try that. Outer color. Oops, capital C there. This would do the outer color. You ready? 1 and 2. Now the outer color is green. Okay. Oops, we set the color back, so we would have to set the outer color back when we're done. But anyway, we were wanting really to set the frame's color to green. Or whatever, you could pop up a pane with a message. ZIM has a pane. It's like a pop-up window, a new pane. You want to see that? So it would just be a new pane. Oh, we'd probably put that there, congrats, like that, dot show. And we can run a function in these brackets when we no longer show. So that pops up a winning message. 1, 2, congrats. And we clear it. Okay. So ZIM's pretty amazing. We've got all sorts of things that you might want, all sorts of conveniences, components, and controls. The pane was a component. So there we go, and we reset. So we're automatically resetting after a timeout. Oh, sorry, the timeout. This is ZIM timeout. After 2 seconds, call this arrow function. We are going to set the color back to lighter and call the reset. If you didn't want to do that, you would be sitting there. Oh, I can't comment that way. Right click and comment selection. If we do that though, in the reset, down here is our reset. We would want, yeah, okay, so we got that. And it would look like this. 1, 2. Oh, sorry, I didn't run it again. Control Enter. 1, 2. There, it just sits there. Oh, I haven't stopped that from dragging, so we'd have to do that if we weren't automatically resetting. And reset. There you go. Okay, remember how this time we did not set the no mouse on that, and so we'd have to consider that. See, lots of things to consider, huh? Ooh. So I'll bring back that timeout though, so that would be up to you whether you want that timeout, and uncomment. Else, so if we're winning, great. Else, we may have only dropped one. So the win happens if all of them are good. But we may have only dropped one letter, or we might have dropped both and wrong. So here's what we need to test. We need to test each of our boxes, and if they're not full, then it's not full. Okay, so that's the same thing where we're looping through each of our box. If it's full, if it's not full, we say return false. Therefore, full will be false. If it finishes the loop, that means they're all full, and full will be true. So if full is true, give a red color, right? Because we don't want to give a red color right now because they're not full yet. Now they're full, and now we give the red color. Okay, so once again, more things to think about each step of the way. And there's the timeout with the reset saying, hey, you got those wrong. Else, return false. So we've got all this stuff right here. This is an if statement if they're hitting. And return false. So return false is if they are. So if they're hitting, return false. So why is that? Because this is miss. So if they're hitting and we return false, miss will be false. Okay? So if we keep going, we don't hit anything. So if we don't hit anything with what we picked up, so this is when we pick up something. So if we pick up that num, if we don't hit anything, then miss will be true because it'll finish the loop. The loop goes through and we didn't hit any of the boxes. Therefore we missed. Okay, the loop finishes, it's true, therefore we miss. So it's kind of like a negative, it's a gate. It's called a gate, kind of. You're doing your tests, and if none of them come out to be false, then it's going to be true. Therefore, miss is true. So it's sort of a negative way of looking at it, isn't it? All right, but here it is. If miss is true, then if num box, what are we doing? Okay, then if it has a box, we need to set that box to false, or the full to false. And it no longer has a box. What we're doing there is the following. There it has a box. Watch this. I pick it up. I'm not hitting anything. That's what we're talking about. This box used to be full, and I used to have a box property of true on here, or whichever box it was. But now I have no box, and this box is no longer full. So if it had a box before and I've missed, I don't have the box anymore. I have no box anymore, and that box is no longer full, whichever box it was. Okay, just make sure to do them in this order, because we have to say that box is no longer full, and I no longer have the box. If you did this one first, I wouldn't know which box to set full because I just set the box to null. All right, anyway, whatever. And regardless, okay, we animate back to our start position just like we did before. Finally, hopefully you guys are all right. Remember that this is a ZIM Explore. So what that means is sometimes it's a little bit longer as we look through code together. And if you're coming from Adobe Animate, maybe you don't code very much, but we're here to help. So you're always welcome to contact us just like this other fellow did. And we'll try and help you through some of the basics of what you're doing, because I know coding can get tricky. But we've got all sorts of ways to learn how to use code in ZIM as well. And it may be that you want to do that because ZIM makes it very easy. Anyway, we've got a button. So there's our button. We jump right to our label reset. Otherwise, we'd have to give, we could say null, comma, null for the the width and the height of the button, and just go to the name of the button, like so. That would also work. Or indeed, we could give the button a width and height, like 300 wide, and the height of, say, 70. And now when I test this, we have a longer button, 300 wide button with a test. There's the corner, for instance. If I didn't want a corner, then corner, I don't know, there's colors first. We have to get to the backing colors. So if I undo this, I'm going directly to the label and using the default width and height, and I can get right to the corner of 0, for instance. So now my button has no corner, like so. Okay. So that's the benefit of the ZIM Duo technique, where we can either use parameters in a normal order or a configuration object like we've done in this case. Anyway, I don't care about my corner 0. We're scaling that down a little bit, and we're positioning it 0 from the center, 60 from the bottom. This is so easy. If we wanted it from the top, that's actually default, so I wouldn't have to put it in there. But now I have a button that's positioned at the top like that. Okay, so that's nice for positioning. Bottom it is. And when I tap, I'm calling reset. So it's going to call this reset function when I tap. You might be wondering, why didn't we use the on method? So on click, call reset. This would be chained onto the button, which means we would lose access to the button, and we would no longer have a button if we needed it later. So we don't chain the on method because it returns an ID so that we can turn the event off. Okay, we can change scale because scale returns the object it's on. Therefore, pose is on the object. Pose returns the object on. Therefore, on is off the object. But on does not return the object, so we can't chain. So ZIM's got this thing called chaining. I don't know if you've noticed it, but it makes it nice and easy to create things. There's a bunch of chaining. Okay, and that means that we don't even need to put the button in a variable. So if we needed to do with the on, we would have to go const button is equal to, and then button.on. All right. So all of this stuff returns the button, and therefore now we have button, and then we can do button on, and then later we can access the button if we need to, etc. But what we did is we were annoyed at having to come out from our chaining, so we made a chainable tap. Like that, and the chainable tap calls whatever function we want, which is our reset. There we go. So tap is chainable. It's just really an on-click. A little bit different than on-click. Click, and you can click down somewhere and move your mouse away and then click up, and it still counts as a click. Whereas tap, you have to do it within a certain time, and you can't move your cursor away all that much. You gotta. By default, there's a few pixels, but anyway, blah bitty blah bitty blah. There's our tap, and it's calling the reset. What do we do when we reset? We loop through all of our nums. If there's not a box, okay, I see what we're doing. Looping usually happens immediately, but we've added a little bit of timing on our loop. Did you notice that? Let's see how this works. So I want to run this again. Control Enter. And here is 1 and 2. Now watch what happens when this resets. 1 goes first, 2 goes next. Do you see that delay? That's a half-second delay in there. And so that means loop, but wait half a second in between our loops. However, if there's no box, so here's the case that we got. We refresh. If I put that, well, let's take this one. If I put this one here and I hit reset, I don't... it would have normally waited 0.5 seconds for that one and then 0.5 seconds for this one. But I want that one to go right away. So if I just hit return, then the following would have happened. Put that in there. Reset. Just that, it waited half a second and then it went. So anyway, there's a special type of return that we can use. If we return next, it will not wait for that 0.5 interval. All right, so otherwise, like our reset, probably both of them are there. Not too many people are going to reset if just one of them are there. Maybe they will. I don't know. Anyway, so normally that wouldn't even come into play. We are basically animating back to our start positions. We're making sure that the box is full, and we get rid of it's no longer in a box. So this is whatever box it was in is full, is false, is no longer full, and then get rid of what box we're in. Okay, that null is there because if we said true, that means loop backwards. And so this is a parameter for whether we want to loop backwards or not. And then how long do we wait? And then there's other things for loops as well. And we're setting the color back again. All right, there we go. Bum, bum, bum. We did it, and I hope you enjoyed working in ZIM, but remember there's all sorts of more tutorials, so if you want to do this from the beginning rather than us just jumping right in there, then I would suggest you follow some of these early tutorials, and you can find out how to work with ZIM. There are 30 examples plus some more here, so that's nice, but if you wanted to see what ZIM was all about, I've just hit examples, and there's all sorts of examples. Can you imagine having a carousel like this that you can use? Oh, don't you want that? I think you want that. Haven't you been complaining that we don't have new components in Adobe Animate? Well, we've got over 40. We've got almost 50 components. So yeah, come in. Actually, these are the components. So here's a whole bunch of different components, loaders, waiters, indicators, lists like this. Look at that. Isn't that nice? That's a dial. Have you guys used a dial before? You got a dial, and you can customize how these look. That's a D-pad, it's called. Keyboard. Wow. So anyway, we were looking through all these examples in ZIM. Nice, huh? And they're all organized as well. These are the collections. So these are like mini sites of examples. You saw the emitter. Remember how we looked at the emitter? Well, here's a bunch of examples of emitter. There's that emitter. There's fire. Ooh. We can change the color of the fire. Okay, so those are little mini sites. And some of the stuff that we're looking at there would be in those tutorials that we set, but there's many examples. All of these that you're looking at were not made in Adobe Animate. They're just made with ZIM. So you're welcome to just come in. We've got a book. This is what the ZIM book looks. Oh, we're going off to an interactive NFT. And so anyway, there's a ZIM book. Maybe see that a little bit bigger. Okay, like that. So you could add a book. I think we showed that in the tutorials as well. So those are interactive NFTs, a bunch of things on CodePen. Like I said, all these are not made in Adobe Animate, but they could be. So you could use your Adobe Animate assets if you so desire. I am Dr. Abstract. This has been a ZIM Explore. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Yeah? You like it? Okay, nice. Then come on in to our forum, and you can see how you can make all these things, or indeed just go to here and find out how we make games. Look at what ZIM can do to make games. We remade all the Atari games. People saying this company right here has made over 700 games in ZIM. And they used to, these companies used to use Animate. So yeah, come on in. Anyway, I am Dr. Abstract. Have a great day or night. Oh, I was going to say, come to the forum. Here's the forum right there. So you're welcome to ask any questions there, just like somebody did, and we answered it. We showed how it could be done. We helped them out through it. We would be happy to do that for you as well. So take it easy from ZIM. Cheers.